Alright, just looking at the time. I'm gonna start here. It says, and also this is for educational, informational purposes. I'm not instructing anybody to do anything. I'm just providing information. I didn't create this information. This information can be found online, and it's under a document called "The Great IRS Hoax: Why We Don't Owe Income Tax," version 4.54. I'm not instructing you to do anything. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just providing information if you're interested. It says, therefore, the people are the authors of the law as a sovereign or supreme power of the state. The law constitutes essentially a binding written legal. Okay, I read all that in the other video. Try to get, okay. It says, the sovereign is never the proper subject or object of most laws unless he violates the contract and thereby injures the equal rights of other fellow sovereigns. Instead, the servants of the sovereign people working in government are the main object and subject of most civil. So basically, when you're working in that capacity, are those who those corporations are subject to the people. Because corporations cannot be injured. They can't talk. They can't think. They can't do anything. So all of those operations are for the people, and the people are not for them. Instead, the servants of the sovereign people working in a government are the main object and subject of most civil laws, and laws are enacted mainly with the purpose to delegate and confine the authority of public servants so they do not injure or undermine the rights of the true sovereigns, the people. Furthermore, only statutes which have been enacted into positive law are considered binding upon all persons within the jurisdiction of the law. The legislative notes, legislative notes under 1 U.S.C. Section 204 indicates that the Internal Revenue Code is not positive law, and therefore it can only be described as a special law or private international law, contractual law, applying to specific persons. Subtitle A of the IRC, in fact, is limited mainly to those engaged in a trade or business and who work for the U.S. government as trustees. The International Revenue Code cannot be described as either as law or positive law unless until. Okay, let's see. Let's see what it, okay, it says 1. The IRC is first enacted into positive law by a majority of the representatives of the sovereign people. This provides evidence that they voluntarily consented to enforcement actions required to implement the law. Without such consent, no enforcement action may be attempted because, according to the Declaration of Independence, all just powers of government derive from the consent of the governed. 2. Regulations must be written by the Treasury for the enforcement provisions of the enactment of positive law, and these regulations must be published in the Federal Register. This puts the public on notice of the enforcement action that will be attempted against them enforcing the law as required by the Fifth Amendment Due Process Clause. The enforcement regulations are then incorporated into the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 26. 4. Delegation of authority orders are written for all enforcement agents within the Internal Revenue Service authorization in them to conduct enforcement actions. 5. The enforcement agents must be designed as enforcements against by receiving a Black Enforcement Pocket Commission and being especially trained and commissioned as public trust employees. Unless and until all the above have occurred, the Internal Revenue Code according the 1 U.S.C. Section 204 cannot be described as law and can only be described as prima facie evidence law, which simply presumptive evidence of law. And that's actually that's how they operate. They operate on presumption. If you, I believe it's called acquiescence. If you do not object to their claims, they're going to assume that you're under their authority. That's why I'm not under their authority. I'm not a corporate citizen. And nor can be according to their original 13th Amendment, Section 12, which states, I put this on another video, but I'm not going to put it here too. Also, Article 6 states that pertaining to the indigenous people, the people of this land, there's no religious test for you to receive any full faith or credit right to be a de jure, what they call American, being that you are the indigenous to this land. You don't have to claim to be their subject in order to receive what is rightfully yours. And I object to that. That I'm not a 14th Amendment legal fiction citizen. Then this also says, this is the original 13th Amendment, Section 12. The traffic in slaves, and we already went through that in other videos, that basically this is North Africa, Northwest Africa, Northwest America, Turtle Island, all of these things. This is this land. They said, the traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on the pain of death and the forfeiture of all the rights and property of persons engaged therein, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. Somebody look at it, see y'all don't even belong here. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that we cannot be enslaved. It's illegal for us to be a corporate citizen. And that does not take away any of our rights. Matter of fact, that basically solidifies our rights. Okay, let's see. It can only be described as a code or a statute, but not as a law. And that's why Bouvier's Law Dictionary Bouvier's Law Dictionary, Volume 2, Revised 6th edition, 1856, says that pertaining to law, when applied to objects, is a civil, penal, and criminal. That's only in the jurisdiction of fiction. But in reality, that's why it states right here, until it becomes positive law, which it cannot be, it can only be described as a code or a statute, but not as a law. That's why they operate on assumptions and presumptions. Unless you refute it, rebut it. Let's see. It says the Internal Revenue Code, 26 U.S.C. Subtitle A, Income Taxes, for instance, is a special law that applies only to the District of Columbia and federal territories over which the United States government, the United States Corporation, because we already see that according to, what is that? What's that term I used earlier, man? It didn't come back to me. The Clearfield Doctrine. And also, according to Title 28 U.S.C. 3002, Section 15, the United States is a corporation and not a government. Let's see, what else was I at? It applies only, it said the Internal Revenue Code only applies to the District of Columbia and federal territories of which the United States Corporation exercises exclusive legislative jurisdiction, but not including non-federal areas within the borders of the several states. It says the U.S. corporation, however, has done a fine job making the tax code look like it's a general law. Most congressmen know this. Of course, if you write them and ask if the IRC is a special law, they have been known to try to avoid answering and having given weasel-worded answers. See http://www.supremelaw.org in the case of People versus Boxer for more details on an example of this.